Hey everybody, it's Matt Phillips with Pro Athlete Advantage. We get to continue our interview series, and I am very excited to introduce you to Brad Cooper, the CEO of US Corporate Wellness. Brad is a nationally recognized thought leader in the health and wellness industry, and let me just give you some insight into his background. I'm telling you, between his athletic career and his business career, you're going to learn a lot from this interview. First of all, Brad has been recognized in multiple publications as the world's fittest CEO from 2015. He has authored 4 books. He is a licensed physical therapist, certified athletic trainer, and a highly sought-after speaker. At age 49, he became the first person ever to complete the endurance trifecta. What is the endurance trifecta, you ask? Well, he qualified for the Boston Marathon, the Hawaii Ironman World Championship, and he also won the 3,000-mile race across America, all in one single year. He is a 9-time Ironman finisher, I believe it's 10 based on a race he just did, a 4-time Hawaii Ironman Triathlon World Championship qualifier, and a top Masters runner. Brad not only talks about health and fitness, he lives it. Let me introduce you to Brad Cooper, CEO of US Corporate Wellness. Brad, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Really appreciate you taking your time. And I have the pleasure of sitting in his home office. He works out of the house for US Corporate Wellness. We're going to find out more about his business. But I will tell you, I just drove up to the place. Absolutely fabulous view of the Red Rocks here in Colorado, and just an incredible atmosphere, I'm sure, to work and to live and to play and do all that.
Pretty fortunate.
So thank you very much for having me at your home, at your home office here in Colorado. This is absolutely great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about how I met Brad, because we actually have not known each other that long, probably just over the last couple of months. I had the great opportunity to hear Brad speak at a men's group that I attend. And he came and just told his story about his walk with Jesus and the impact that that's had in his life. And he talked about his business, and he talked about his triathlon and marathon experience, and brought it all together. So that's where I first got to see Brad. And I immediately afterwards contacted him because his words impacted me in a big way in my business and my personal life. But I just had to meet him, and I had to find out more. And just with the athletic background, with the corporate background, we just had so much in common. I knew I needed to meet this man and get to know his story and what he's about and what drives him. And we met for a coffee a couple weeks back, and I had the opportunity to learn more, and it just confirmed what my gut had told me from the start. So again, Brad, thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy. We're going to tell your story a little bit. We're going to talk about some mental toughness concepts and how you implement that in business and in your triathlon world. But one thing that impacted me when I first heard you speak that I want everyone to hear, I want to talk a little bit about your business background, and how you used to be in the corporate world, and then kind of something happened a little bit. So can you talk to me a little bit about kind of what you were doing from a corporate perspective, and how you ended up founding US Corporate Wellness?
Yeah, to make it short, I'm a physical therapist is my background. I was a physical therapist still am, for 20 plus years. Loved the management side of that, and got into that, went and got an MBA, and was managing 48 clinics across a few different states. And then the company sold our division to another company, and they didn't need the vice presidents anymore for the original company.
Yes.
So I was one of 27 VPs that was laid off. It was a completely stunning moment, didn't expect it. I was actually going around the country about 10, 12 times a year teaching business concepts to other managers and directors and that kind of thing around the country. So I thought, well, they need me. They didn't need me, obviously. So on that day, we found out you're done. Generous severance package, had a chance to do anything except what I knew. I was not allowed to manage PT clinics for a 2-year period. And of course I was allowed to, but I'd give up the severance package. So
Yes.
I had no idea. I had no idea. I did not have a business plan sitting in a filing cabinet somewhere. I remember coming home, and my wife was amazing, and I don't remember if I shared this story with you before, but I sat down, I shared with her what happened, and she's like, okay, well, I'm going to the grocery store, I'll see you in a while. Like nothing had happened. Like she wasn't worried, she wasn't freaking out. I was freaking out, but she wasn't. And I think that moment, she doesn't remember it. I tell that story and she's like, I don't remember doing that.
Right,
but I think she treated it like just another day. And that calmed everything. I was like, well, if she thinks it's going to be okay, I guess it'd probably be okay. And I think it's a nice lesson for the people we have around us, that having someone like her that's just so relaxed and confident in our future and what God has planned in our future.
Yes.
She's just, okay, we're fine. I'm going to the grocery. See you in a while.
Interesting.
So it was pretty cool.
That's pretty powerful, because it's that calming, almost that calming force when you walk in, and we all get to that point of overworked. And I've been in a situation similar to you, having a company open a new division in a different city and saying, move or go home, and I went home, and that's such an interesting dynamic, just to have that calm, just to be like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Life is going to go on.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back, breathe for a little bit. I'll be back in 30 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes.
Right.
Wow, that's really interesting. So what was it, when she got home from the grocery store, did the conversation shift? Was it that same calm? Was it a shift in like, now we have to act, or kind of what went on there?
I think that's the benefit of our different personalities. She stayed relaxed, it's gonna be fine. And that freed me up from freak out mode to, okay, let's move forward mode. And you know what I'm talking about. It's the same energy devoted to a different path.
Yes.
So instead of me spending the next month saying, woe is me, this is horrible, how could this happen, there was a short period of that, but because she was so calm, I then was able to shift to, okay, what's next? What are we gonna do? We've got this severance package that's generous, we're fine. What does that mean? What are we gonna do? And so that's when the juices started kicking in, and we started thinking, well, I wonder what he has planned for us next.
Interesting. Yeah. And you look back, because when I talk about mental toughness a lot, it's about mental toughness is not a magic pill, right? It's, you learn to react faster each time you face adversity, right? So if you start losing your confidence, you're able to gain it back that much faster, right? And the next time it happens, because it's gonna happen, even for me, for all of us, right? That you snap back faster than the time before. So you get better and more prepared for that. So as you look at this situation, I'm just curious, based on kind of past adversities you might have faced, it could be some of the training you did for triathlons, all that stuff, which we'll talk about, but maybe for your wife and for you, like what do you think helped prepared you to flip that switch almost?
Yeah, I have a life pattern of where I get really down, but I know it lasts 24 hours. And so if I'm having a bad day, it's just a really bad day. And I'm grumpy, and I'm a whiner, but tomorrow, it's like the chemicals rebalance or something, and it's like, it's gonna be great. And I think that's somewhat what happened there. So that was a life pattern that's continued to this day. I still do that now. If I'm having a bad day, you probably just want to go away and come back tomorrow, because it's going to be fine. In fact, it's going to be great tomorrow.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what happened there. I jumped right in. Part of the severance package was they provided some career coaching for us, and I jumped in, went through all 30 of their courses in 3 days or something, and met with their just all in. Just as I'd been all in for my previous career, I just shifted all that energy to, okay, now my all in is all about figuring out what's next. And we had no idea. The only concept, I was just starting to do triathlons at that time. Was not very good, but enjoyed the sport, and saw all these people I was spending time with. They're energetic, they were never sick, they were creative, and I just thought, wow, how could we get that kind of energy in the workplaces in America? Because there's and I'd heard of it, but I knew nothing about employee wellness. Nothing, had no clue. I'm a physical therapist who happened to do triathlons and was managing some clinics, had a little business background, no clue. And we thought, okay, well it didn't even occur to me to go the entrepreneurial route.
Yes.
The first thought was, I'll present this chief wellness officer concept to larger companies, and they'll add this board position, and I'll run that for. And so we put this whole resume together. We're about 2 weeks into it. I'm meeting with this career counselor. We're going through it. We're fine tuning. We're meeting at Starbucks one day, and I just looked at him. I went, "Wait a minute. Why would they bring me on when they could have somebody from the outside probably do a better job at less cost? And why would I do it for one company if I could do it for 100 companies?" And I promise you, he reached across the table. He goes, "We're done here." He reached across, shook my hand, and
That's awesome.
that was the last time we ever met. And we launched the company the next day. It was 28 days after I was laid off. Again, had very little insight of what this was going to look like, but we got after it, and God was there every step of the way. Some things happened that probably shouldn't have logically happened in our favor, and that got us going, and we're about to start our 11th year at U.S. Corporate Wellness, so it's been a great ride. Very, very fortunate.
That's pretty well. And I'll have a link to the U.S. Corporate Wellness website in the show notes that everyone can go take a look at. And you'll see this. I was on there earlier today, and they've got the 10-year anniversary badge that you're going to see on there. So they have officially crossed the 10-year badge.
We got to cross it.
Which is incredible. I think that's such a key point that I try to teach a lot is how do you shift to action right away. A good friend of mine has this phrase. He says, "Action eliminates fear." And how even if it's the smallest thing that you do, the smallest step that you take, it takes your mindset and gets it out of the past, what happened, and puts you into the present moment of like, now I'm taking this step forward.
That's good.
And you did that. And 28 days later, after being shocked, walked out of a company with a job you were enjoying.
I did.
At the time, you walked out but you made that intentional decision to take action. And what I think is really interesting too, it's almost like you took this, your shift was, how do I learn and how do I prepare? Because you said you just jumped into these, all those courses, and you started meeting with the coach and saying, how do I learn? And then this curiosity mindset came up of wellness, like what
does that look like?
What does that look like? Have you always been a person who has that kind of learning mindset? Are you reading? Are you reflecting? Are you listening? But
I think as you were saying that, I was thinking about it. We've got bookshelves covered in the next room over, and you can probably see my life develop on the bookshelves. Because when Suzanne and I were, I'll go all the way back, when Suzanne and I were dating, I was reading everything about dating and being a great husband and what does this look like and that kind of stuff. And then as we got married and got into the working world, was out of PT school, enjoyed the management stuff, I was just absorbing every Tom Peters book and Stephen Covey book, and you can just see all of those. And then somebody taught me to try and golf. So for 1 year I was like, I'm going to try to go from 110 strokes to breaking 80. And so I read every book I could. I would be out at the driving range at 4 a.m. so that nobody was around and I could just do my thing and then go get my balls back and hit them again.
Right.
And I never broke 80, but I hit 80 within like 7 months of playing golf, just because it was totally focused. And they got tired of that and started triathlon, and you can see all the triathlon books and running books and swimming books and everything else. So I think that's just my thing. Other people have done it a lot better than I have forever. So why not learn from them?
Yes.
So in every single pursuit, you can see on the bookshelves, okay, this guy's a lot better than I am, so why not learn something from him or from her?
Interesting. I'm gonna go take a picture of his bookshelves later. We can get some insight into Brad
That's right.
of his whole life.
The timeline. The book-driven timeline.
Well, that's the thing. There's such cool resources out there, right?
Exactly.
All sorts of books and podcasts and
why not use them?
Trainings and
coaching,
right? All that sort of stuff. How did that coach, that career coach, a counselor, help you over those fast 28 days?
I think any good coach, I don't remember that specifically, but I think any good coach doesn't tell you what to do because they don't know. They ask you, they dive in, they draw out of you, they're pulling the key information. This guy did a great job, obviously, from the result that we had, but he didn't have the idea of wellness. He didn't have the idea of starting. But he kept drawing, he kept asking, he kept tweaking, he kept saying, well, what if, how about this, what about this? And as a result, it happened.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big thing. I don't care if you're in athletics or triathlons, baseball, whatever. If you're in a business setting, I think that's where the most valuable learning comes from. Is when people are just asking you questions and making you think about it and strategically and challenging you on it. And
we run into that with the wellness coaching all the time, because a lot of folks come from a wellness model where the coach is making them feel guilty, calling them up and telling them, did you eat your spinach? Did you exercise? They feel like they're being called to the principal's office. And we say, well, that's not how we do it. We keep asking questions. It's all about you. What's important to you? Because your driver, I can lecture to you all day, and you can nod your head nicely and say, oh yeah, it makes sense, that's a great idea, Brad, but as soon as I leave the room, you're going to do what matters to you.
Yes.
And if we don't tie into what matters to you, we make zero progress. And so any good coaching has to be all about you. And it's nice that I have some information in my head, it's nice that I have some resources if you want them, but you've got to ask for them. I can't just blabber at you for 30 minutes and think that your life's going to change, because it won't.
Yes. What do you think holds people back from asking for help in any area?
Ego. It's a big thing. I've got this. I don't need somebody else. Fear of how they'll be viewed. I should know this. I think those are probably the biggest two.
Tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Very tough to deal with, especially as males.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tend to believe that females deal with that better.
They're probably better at that, among other things.
Among a lot of other things, yes. That is for sure. 28 days go by,
Mm-hmm.
You launch. What happens?
Nothing for about 6 months. We're knocking doors down. I'm going to every meeting. I'll meet with anyone who's breathing. I don't care if they're a decision maker. I don't care if they have any interest in wellness. You want to meet? I'm your guy. Let's talk. Let's have coffee. Let's get lunch. Let's go to this networking event.
Yes.
I'll talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere, and it results in nothing. And then we randomly put this flyer in a triathlon that I was participating in their pickup packet type thing. And out of the blue, some guy I'd never met before in my life, his boss had just said, I want you to look for a wellness program for us. He's at a big company, very well respected company. He calls me up, we meet, one thing leads to another, we're their wellness partner, and that was frankly the beginning of this tremendous ride. Had that not happened, we might not be here today.
That's amazing.
It was unbelievable.
That's amazing.
It really was.
So how did you, I guess, what was your process for those 6 months? Because you say knocking on the doors, and it seems like, well, that's an easy thing, right? I'll pick up the phone and I'm going to go meet with people. But it's harder to apply, right? When you have to put it to action, that's difficult, right? I even fight with this sometimes. Like, yeah, I got him. I'm gonna kill it today. I'm gonna make all these calls, and then the day comes, and it's like, that fear comes. So, what was kind of your process? What was your approach for those 6 months to make sure you stayed true to, this is what I want to do. This is how it needs to happen. How did you kind of stay true to that? What was that process like?
I didn't know what I was doing, so my quality was probably very poor. The networking events I was going to, these folks could not hire a wellness company. They were selling real estate, they were doing insurance, they were great folks. Nice to meet them. You never know what relationship leads to another relationship, so those are always valuable. There's never a bad relationship.
Yes.
There's bad relationships, but it's never bad to have a relationship with folks. But quantity, I was good at quantity. And over time, I realized, I learned, this is where it's worth doing and this is where it's not. And this is a valuable meeting and this is not so much. And because there's unlimited options. Everybody wants you to come to their networking events. Everybody wants you to buy their advertisements. You've got unlimited options.
Yes.
You don't have unlimited funds and you don't have unlimited time. So I'm a good grinder. The Race Across America, I had no clue what I was doing there. Before Jerry Schemmel talked me into doing that event with him, I had never ridden over 140 miles in one outing in my entire life. This is a 3,000 mile race. Wow. So, but I'm good at getting up and getting on the bike. But quality is critical eventually with that, and quality is critical eventually with where we're spending our time and our money.
Yes.
You know, you can just grind for 6 months and then get lucky. But long term, to survive 10, 11 years, you've got to start figuring out, where do we spend our time? What conferences do we go to? Where is it valuable to speak? Where is it not worth the trip? Those kinds of things.
Interesting. Well, that's tough from especially a sales perspective, kind of business development perspective, and really any area of life. It's taking that step back and saying, why am I doing this? Right. At the end of the day, what value does it add? What is it going to lead to down the line, right? Or what could it lead to, right? It may lead to nothing, but what could it lead to? How do I strategically attack this? And that's no different, and we're going to talk about more in depth in the triathlon world, but it's no more different. At some point, you getting on the bike was a good step, but then there had to be a strategy to it as well, right? The strategy came, and then I don't know if it became easier or not after a 3,000 mile race, but I've never done it, so I don't know. But when you're in that business development, where you're spending your time, how do you strategically attack it? It's value. It's value. Right. What is the value? What is it going to lead to down the line? How's this going to fulfill me?
And you're trying. We have a little phrase we use: better than yesterday. For any area of your life, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your finances, whether it's your health, whether it's your fitness, whether it's your race times. We don't live in a vacuum. I mean, it doesn't really matter if I'm faster than you unless we're racing each other directly.
Yes.
What matters is, am I getting faster than I was yesterday? Or at age 50, am I getting less slow than all the rest of the 50-year-olds? Yes. So that's kind of the same thing, and I think that ties a lot into the business acumen of, okay, the first month I had no clue, the second month I had a little clue, the third month I kind of sort of barely had a clue.
Yes.
And hopefully by now, I still don't have it figured out. I haven't figured out the magic bullet, but I'm a little better than I was 10 years ago, and it just seems to be working a little bit better each time.
Interesting.
So, but you got to track that stuff. I've got my running journals from years. I'm still one of those paper guys that likes to, at the end of the workout day, go in and say, oh, you did this, here was the quality, here's the interval, here, whatever. And it's fun to look back on those. And I think the same thing's true in your business life. It doesn't have to be a journal, although that's a great process, but something where you can look back and say, in the month of November, what happened? Where did I devote my time? How many effective meetings were available? What happened as a result of those? And what will be different in December than it was in November? And if you keep doing that, it doesn't matter if it's golf or fitness or your marriage or being a dad or anything else, you're going to get better. You're going to get better results.
Yes.
So,
interesting. When do you take time to reflect and write that stuff down? Do you have a particular time of the day, week, day of the month, week? Is there a particular time you set aside?
Yeah, it's a mix. I'm big on kind of seeing where's my energy during the day. So in the morning, I tend to be real high energy. I'm a morning person. We get to bed at a pretty good, decent time, so it's not a big deal to be up at 5:30 in the morning. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I start to dwindle a little bit. So that's a great time to either reflect or do the things that don't take a lot of concentration. And so I try to, when I'm planning out my day, I kind of have those things. This doesn't take a lot of thought. This doesn't, or something you really love. Years ago when I was teaching this course, I called it Nows and Wows. Most people do their wows first because they're looking forward to it, they're excited about it, they want to jump into it, they're ready to rock and roll. And so they do the wows when they're high energy, then they get to the low energy part of their day, and all they got left are their nows. And so now it's like, I've got low energy and I hate doing this. That's a bad combination. If you flip that, if you do the nows when you got a lot of energy, and then the wows are waiting for you, there you go.
Get that second
kind
burst,
of balance
second burst of energy.
Exactly.
Interesting. When do you plan out your days?
I tend to look at it as a week. So over the weekend, usually Sunday afternoon, we're at church in the morning. It's Bronco season now, so usually watch the Broncos in the afternoon. But typically during, like, freeze the game during halftime or something, I'll just spend a half hour looking over the week, what's coming, what I need to be ready for, what needs to be tweaked, that kind of thing. So I like looking at it kind of a week in advance.
That's great. These are all good tips because every person's different and has their method.
Right.
That's why I asked that question, because I guess we can all learn from how different people approach these things. So
well, and the pondering part, that's when the fitness stuff is so fun, because when you're on a bike for an hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, whatever, there's a lot of thinking, praying, pondering, wondering, dreaming that goes on.
I love it.
So
let me, because I want to talk about the triathlon world here in a minute, because I just think it's fascinating. I've never done it, and I'm sitting next to an Ironman, so I have to learn. How I can get better at fitness. All right, good. Go for a run or something after this. But when you talk about wellness, what are the critical components in your mind when you're out pitching a company or talking to people like you need to be focused on wellness? What are the things you find most important?
You know, that I could go on for hours about that, obviously, but I had 2 conversations yesterday, and the same thing came up in both of them, and it was the fact that, and maybe I shouldn't say this on film, but when it comes to risk factors, when it comes to the things that can negatively influence your health and wellness, and again, wellness isn't food and fitness. A lot of people think wellness, that's eating right and exercising. Well, yeah, it is. But it's also stress, it's also sleep, it's also life balance. It's this more holistic look at how can I make tomorrow better than my today, basically.
Yes.
But all of those things really come down to 3 factors: move, fuel, rest, and then we could throw repeat in there if we want to keep the cycle going. So if it doesn't matter if you're suffering with diabetes, it doesn't matter if you have a cold, it doesn't matter if you're stressed out. You just go down the list of risk factors, and if we will improve how much you're moving, it doesn't mean run a marathon. That means if you're sitting on the couch and at a desk all day long, you start walking 15 minutes over lunch.
Yes.
That's more movement. Great job, good job. Fuel's very different than eating. Eating is what satisfies the tongue. Fueling prepares the body. Totally different. You can throw out all the diet plans in the world, and just every time you sit down, instead of saying what do I want to eat, think, how am I going to fuel? Completely different question. Both involve calories, but fuel involves purposeful calories. Eating involves, let's satisfy the tongue calories.
Yes.
So fuel's the second piece, and then rest. If you were to come up to me off the street and we'd never met before, we didn't know anything about each other, and you said, okay, wellness guy, what's the one thing I can do to improve my life? Having no background on you, I could probably be pretty accurate in saying, add 30 minutes of sleep at night. It improves everything. Watch your relationships when you sleep better. Watch your energy levels when you sleep better. Watch your dreaming, your creativity when you sleep better. Watch your relationship with your kids and how you interact with your teenagers. Look at all of these things. Add 30 minutes of sleep. It all gets better. It's unbelievable. And yet we're walking around putting all the caffeine we can in our system. We're staying up late checking our iPads. It's unbelievable. And I'm guilty.
Sure.
But it's one of these, really, we're missing the simple. So anyway, I'm on a tangent here, but move, fuel, rest are the big 3 that really take care of almost everything. But the key to an effective wellness program is not telling people that. People know that. It's helping them implement it in their life, not just telling them how it works in my life. How it works in my life doesn't matter to any of you. How it works in your life matters to all of you. So that's the real key, is helping them implement it in their life in an effective way that actually matters.
I love it. Now, again, I'm going to write this down. This is the move, fuel, rest, repeat.
Right.
And keep the cycle going.
And the repeat part might tie into some of the things you're talking about from your end. The repeat obviously is do it again, but it's also say it to somebody else. And that could be a coach. When somebody's sharing something with you and you're holding them accountable for it, I don't want to let you down. So I'm not just doing it only for me anymore. Now I'm also doing it for you because I kind of care what you think. So the repeat has a double meaning. Both of them very valuable.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. I might have to put that on
Feel
my wall
free.
at home. Oh, I'll send you a bill for the
That's right.
copyright
That's
fees
right.
here. All right, so we're talking about moving, right? We're talking about fueling. We're talking about resting. We're talking about repeating. What time do you typically get up in the morning?
5:30 is pretty typical. I've had days where I'm closer to 5, and one of the things that I've tried really hard to do with the Ironman training is it doesn't matter if it's a Saturday, Sunday, or a Tuesday, being up and at 'em immediately. Because I've got too many friends that are like, man, my family just doesn't understand. I've got to do a 6-hour ride. Well, there's a big difference between a 6-hour ride that starts at 8 in the morning and a 6-hour ride that starts at 5 in the morning.
Yes. Okay.
So that's something that I think, and there are not too many people doing 6-hour rides out there, but if you are, seriously, dude, start early. So yeah, 5:30 is pretty typical. We try to shoot for that 8 hours, so we're trying to be in bed by 9:30, up at 5:30.
Okay.
We all have days where you got to be up earlier,
Yes.
and you all have occasional days where you sleep a little bit later,
Yes.
but not much.
When you wake up at 5:30, is there a typical routine that you go through that you follow every day? Does it vary?
I'm on the bike or running or something ASAP.
Okay.
Like literally glass of water, couple supplements, and go. And that everybody's got their little pain cave. I got my pain cave downstairs, the bike, the treadmill, swim machine, and a lot of people are like, why, it's so nice out. Why don't you go outside? Well, I agree, and I love riding outside, but probably October through April I'm indoors because it's just so efficient.
Yes.
I can be in 5 minutes. I can be on my bike starting the workout. If I'm riding outside, I've got to go see what the temperature is. Is it windy? Do I need a jacket? There's sand. There's stop signs. There's stoplights. There's cars. Whereas the combi trainer, 2 hours is 2 hours of perfect quality.
Yes.
So
Well, it's interesting because it's you get the water in you, so you're fueling yourself, right? Getting the body to wake up a little bit, get ready to go. You jump on the bike immediately, get the blood flowing.
Right.
You're achieving your goals because you're training right away in the morning. You're being aware of when it fits best into your schedule.
Yeah, because once
right?
I get into the day, there's too many things going on. I always say, well, it'd be better for me for racing to do my run at lunch because that's closer to the time you'd be running in an Ironman.
Yes.
It just doesn't work. There's just too many things after 8 in the morning, after 7:30 in the morning. Too many things happen. So.
Well, I think it's a great point, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I wanted to. I think it's a key point about how do you fit it in to your schedule, which makes most sense to you
And your life and your family, and your business, exactly.
Right, and I think that's a key point because I've been there too, where you try to force it, or when you have young kids and you put them to bed at 8 o'clock, and you say, I'm going to go to the gym. Well, I get to the gym, I don't want to be at the gym. I don't want to be there. So my choice now is I get up and I'm working out at 5:15 in the morning because that works for me, and I get home and the kids are just getting up, getting ready for school.
Right.
So I think that's a key point that I wanted to talk about again. Like, don't forget that. Look at your schedule and be like, when does it make sense for me, my family, right? Work, all that stuff. When does it make most sense? If it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes.
And that may change over time.
Yes.
My wife Susanna talks a lot about phases of life, and what makes sense when you have 3 kids in college might be very different than what makes sense when you have 3 kids under the age of 6.
Yes.
So working with those phases of life in all areas, but certainly fitness pursuits makes sense.
Yes. You started triathlons now about 14
Yeah, probably
years?
13, 14 years ago. It was about in 2003.
What made you have an interest in doing that?
I didn't. I had no desire to do an Ironman. I signed up. I was working for this other company at the time, and they had this relationship with a triathlon running coaching group, and they were gonna it was this partnership, so they needed a guinea pig. And I was running a little bit. My running thing back then was I would weigh like 160, 161, and my jeans wouldn't quite fit. So I'd run for 3-4 weeks, get back to 154, 155. They'd fit again. I'd be done. I'd stop. I'd drift back up to 160, and it was just this 5-7 pound yo-yo back and forth for years. And so I just raised my hand. I was like, well, I run a little bit. I could do it. And they're like, okay. Well, it was just like the book thing. Once this coach was like, okay, what race are we gonna do? I was like, okay, give me everything. What book should I read?
Yes.
If we're gonna do this, let's do it right. And I was signed up for a sprint triathlon up in Aspen or someplace, and the motivation wasn't there. I was just kind of like, yeah, this is okay, but it's a sprint, whatever. And then I saw this half Ironman in Boulder, and it was 5 weeks later, and I went to my wife and I said, honey, I know I'm signed up for the sprint distance in like 8 weeks or something, but there's a half Ironman in, at this point, probably 4 weeks. And I promise you, she said, she would not claim to saying this, but she said, march up to the bathroom, look in the mirror at your eyes. You're so fired up. I think you go for it. And that's her. She gets that. She understands that the passion, the internal energy drives everything else. And so when she saw the sparkle in the eyes, there was no doubt in her mind. She didn't realize what we were getting into, but that was the driver to do a half Ironman in Boulder on 5 weeks of training. It did not go very well. A friend of mine, Kevin Desert, who's a great athlete, lapped me on the run. So keep in mind, this is a half marathon, but he was so far ahead of me between the swim and the bike and the first part of the run that he came by me. I was probably on mile 4 and he was on mile 11 or something like that. And we still laugh about it now, because now we're like racing to the finish line together. We're like exactly the same, but in that first one, he just kicked my tail. And I was just like, wow, I'm not very good at this. But that led to, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And then getting in with the right people, that 5 people you spend the most time with really determines who you become as a person. And a good friend, Scott Binder, wasn't a good friend at the time, didn't even know each other barely, but we knew that we both did triathlons, and he'd been to Kona a million times, great athlete, and he just invited me into his circle. He just was, come on, why don't you come work out with us? And then he started this iron camp, crazy iron camp thing, where we'd go up to Winter Park, and there were about 6 to 10 of us that would just torture each other for 4 straight days, where we'd run on Friday, we'd bike 130 miles on Saturday as hard as we could, we'd swim that night, we'd get up and run 20 miles Sunday, we'd swim that afternoon and do weights, and then Monday we'd ride from Winter Park up to the top of Estes, over Trail Ridge Road, down into Estes, and come back. And so he got me into that, invited me in, which is a great lesson here. When you invite somebody in, if it's done out of real friendship and really wanting to bring them along, just the change you can have in them. And so he made me realize, instead of just finishing an Ironman, I've trained with these guys, maybe I could do as well as them.
Yes.
And so then there's that iron sharpens iron factor of, well, Scott's a really good athlete, and I was able to run with him that time. So maybe I could run with him in a race. And Terry's this incredible cyclist, and I can't keep up with him, but I was closer than I was last month. So it's just that, again, you become the people you spend the most time with, and those Carlos and Scott and Terry and Cavalli and these guys, great athletes.
Yes.
But as they invited me in, they gave me a glimpse of what could be, and then I was able to live that out with a lot of their help. And then that led to, I'd done one Ironman at the time, but that led to taking it much more seriously. We would challenge each other on workouts, we'd trade ideas and notes and text each other about, hey, what'd you do today? Hey, this is what I did. And you become those people.
Yes.
So.
Well, I mean, there's so much baked into that, even beyond what you're saying, right? Surrounding yourself with the right people.
Right.
Having them push you, and you get to push right back almost,
Eventually.
I
didn't do much pushing early on. Those guys are kicking my butt.
Now you're pushing.
Yeah, I can.
A couple years later, you're pushing.
Yeah.
But constantly learning. And the thing I love about it is you have this mentality of, how do I learn? How do I get better every day? But having that awareness of just noticing that, wow, I did get a little better today. And it was almost kind of like a small celebration, but taking it and saying, okay, but how do I use this now? Right? How do I use it?
So that's good, but what's next?
What's next, right? And so I got better. I want to get better. So it was that, almost that motivation, whether you realize it or not during it, was that motivation of like, wow. We've all seen it, right? We've all had, in business and in athletics, we've all felt those moments where you're just like, you get to a point and you're like, whoa, like I can't, whoa, like I shouldn't be here, or I shouldn't have been able to do that, and I did it. But it's like, how many of us go and be like, now I'm using that, right? Now I'm using that.
And then looking for that next level. I mean, that's sometimes been a real drawback for me. I was talking to some guys, actually doing a talk at an event, and question came up somehow of, how many great races have you had? You've done a ton of races, running and cycling and triathlon and all this. How many of you really thought, nailed it? And I bet you I came up with 4 out of 100 plus. 4 that I really walked away saying, yeah, that was awesome. Maybe 7 or 8.
Sure.
But less than 10% of the races. But part of that is, some people were like, dude, you need to like wake up. You're doing well, enjoy it, soak it in a little bit. And I mentally I agree with that, but there's just something inside of me that says, yes, but I think I can go faster. I think there's more there. I gotta figure out a way to get there. And a lot of times I never do. But I enjoy that journey. And sometimes I don't look like I do, but it's
I imagine
I
with
think
some of
it's
the
just the way
races.
God's made me is I need to be a little bit more satisfied with, frankly, just the ability to participate.
Yes.
But I also enjoy that question of, what if? What if everything went just right? What could it look like? So.
Well, I think that's a powerful thing, because it's easy as like a coach or a parent, I think, or sometimes as a boss, you see potential in people that they don't see in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about wellness, until someone's ready to do it, you can see all the potential in the world, and you can be like, wow, I mean, this person, they could do amazing things. And that's in every area of life. You're like, especially with kids too, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I see such potential in you. But to shift to that place where you start to see that potential in yourself and understand that, like what you did with those gentlemen up in Winter Park, and the challenge you put yourself through, and you rose to the occasion. But to be able to have that awareness, that look what I did, and that just built that belief.
But I want to do better.
Yourself. But you want to do better, and it's that changing it from, wow, that was great, to maybe there's more,
right.
And maybe there's more,
right.
And that's such a huge thing for all of us, to see that potential inside us and what it could be, and then just take that first step.
Right.
I'm not saying it's easy, but just take that first step to be able to do it. I'm going to be all over the place a little bit. I want to come back to try.
All right, fire away.
Coffee or tea? Or
Neither. Yeah, I use caffeine for performance purposes only. So currently I'm working towards focusing on my running over the next 3 months and trying to get as fast as I possibly can. And so I'll use caffeine on a track workout day and a tempo workout day. Otherwise, so I have it twice a week, first thing in the morning, and then not at all the other 5 days. And I like the idea of green tea. Conceptually, it's a smart thing to do. I'm just not. I don't enjoy it that much, so I have to be like, okay, I need to drink my green tea now.
Right.
So.
Yes, that makes sense. Okay. Let's talk a little bit, and if I had hours and hours, we could get so in depth on a lot of this stuff. But I'm trying to be aware of your cognizant of your time here. This could be like a 4-hour interview, I think. But let's talk about your latest race, because we talked about that at coffee a little bit. But you went out to Kona, you did the big Ironman.
Well, I actually just did Ironman Arizona last weekend.
That's right.
Weekend before last. So
I haven't seen you since then.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the Hawaii big one, and then how this Arizona one went. I'm just very curious. How did they go?
Neither one of them like I'd like them to, but I think the story of Icarus. Flew too close to the sun, melted, crashed and burned. His dad warned him. Seth Godin does a good job of reminding us the real story. Wasn't his dad warning him, don't fly too close to the sun? His dad said, don't fly too close to the sun or too close to the earth. And Seth Godin's point is, we're not at risk of flying too close to the sun. We're all being mediocre and just kind of getting by with the minimum we can, and we're flying too close to the earth. And in my marriage, in our finances, we're pretty conservative, but in my racing, I kind of like Icarus. I would rather, in fact, my wife and I were talking about this, I would rather if I went to Kona 10 times and had 9 just ridiculously terrible races where I ended up walking part of the marathon and finishing 400th or something, and I had one that I nailed it won the world championship
Yes.
for the 50 plus, that'd be totally worth it. I'd be absolutely willing to give up 9 to get it right, to get it just right once. And so I'm constantly trying to figure out. I've got buddies that are like, if you slow this part down or do this, I'm like, dude, but then I'd cut a half hour off or whatever, but I'm not trying to cut a half hour off. I'm trying to come in. My goal for Kona was to come in 9:10 to 9:20, and that would have been awesome. But if I would have been conservative and finished 9:45, wow, woohoo, way to go. Like, I wouldn't even care.
Yes.
It would be
Yes.
meaningless. And that's what happened in Arizona 5 weeks after Kona. Is same thing, good swimming bike. First 11, 12 miles of the run, I was right at 7-minute pace. I think I was in 3rd or 2nd at that point, and then blew up. And for an hour, I just walked, and I'm just like, here we go again. Here's Kona. And then at mile 16, was able to start. I kept fueling. So different than Kona. This is kind of the lesson you're looking at. Is so the exact same thing happened as Kona. Kona, I came off. I think I ran my way up to 6th or 7th place. A lot more challenging competitors there than I'm in Arizona because it's the World Championship.
Yes.
But I blew up at the same point around mile 11, 12. But at Kona, I was like, this is ridiculous. It's done. And so I just walked my way to the finish line, get the official finish, etc. But didn't care. At Arizona, I was still totally discouraged and bummed out, and I can't believe this happened again. And but I kept taking in, per the plan, the fuel, the salt, the water. And at mile 16, a few different things combined. Our daughter's birthdays were that week, and I had stuck a picture of them in my special needs bag, and I was carrying that. And instead of looking at my watch, I tend to constantly look at my watch and see how my pace is going.
Yes.
I stopped doing that and I started looking at them. And it was a powerful, powerful tool that just got things going. And at mile 16, without a watch, my GPS stopped working. So I had no idea what my pace was, except I was just running as hard as I could. The last 10 miles of sub-7s, ran my way back up to 5th after probably falling into 97th place or something over that hour walk. And it wasn't a good race. It was a disappointing outcome, but to be able to come back, and I think I ran a 3:41 in spite of walking an hour in the middle. So it was better. It wasn't what I was looking for. I wasn't satisfied. I was incredibly disappointed when it was over, but it was better. So maybe I learned something, and that's the goal. Try to get a little bit better than yesterday.
But at the same time, almost connecting with.
My daughter's had a big impact.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Can you grab that thing we talked about? The
Yeah,
sand thing?
sure.
Is that all right? Sorry.
Yeah, I was talking about this earlier.
Yeah, so because I think you looking at the pictures of your kids
Yeah.
in that race, I think that's fascinating because it almost connects you with, like, this is why I'm doing it, and this
Yeah.
is
I want to be that
back to
model
my
for
core.
them. I'm constantly thinking about them. They're what's most important. This is just a race. Let's just do everything you can. You're not there with them, so let's make the most of this. It was powerful. When I crossed the finish line, I'd thrown everything aside. I didn't have any of my fuel left, nothing. But I had that picture grasped in my hand. It was all crumpled up and everything, but ended up
That gives me
running.
the chills, Brad.
Yeah, I think a buddy of mine said I ran the last 10K in under 40 minutes of the Ironman, which is not a super fast open 10K, but it's a pretty good last 10K of an Ironman.
Wow. So tell me about this real quick.
So
I've got a couple last
yeah,
questions.
I was
but-
just telling Matt about this when he came in. For some reason, this has been sitting on my desk for probably 13 years or so, and for some reason I was looking at today. You can't really see from the camera there, but it's a little glass container with some sand in it. There's a seashell, and then there's a picture of our kids. And this was a discussion my wife and I had. We'd done a extended family trip to a beach area and just loved it. And just quality time with the kids, and I was working a ton of hours in the corporate setting at that point, and just felt like I don't want to miss them growing up. We want to be parents. I want to be a dad. Susanna's already a great mom. And we found this shell, and it almost looks like a Nike symbol, the Just Do It. So I saved the shell, a little bit of the sand, and stuck this picture in, not knowing what that meant. And it ended up kind of being the precursor to, let's try to do this thing. Let's do this entrepreneurial pursuit. Didn't know what I was doing. Again, a lot of things fell on our plate in line for us that probably shouldn't have logically, but it's fun to look back at that and just say, you know what, now our kids are 22, 20, and 17, and we've gotten to be there with them.
That's pretty
It's
wild.
pretty cool.
It's, as soon as you showed me this, I wanted Brad to talk about it again, because, and I'll take a picture of it if you don't mind.
Sure.
But just like I can post it as well. But what a cool symbol. And then that's because I haven't seen you since the Phoenix one, and to hear about you grasping that, man, that gives me the chills. I'm telling you, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty. They're good motivators.
Man,
They're
I
good
love
motivators.
I love it. Connect to your core. Connect to your core.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Before the last question, how can people best connect with you with U.S. Corporate Wellness? What's kind of the...
Email's probably the best. You can send it to bcooper@uscorporatewellness.com. And if you can't remember that, you can just put brad@uscorporatewellness.com and it'll find its way to me.
Okay. And I'll put that in the show notes as
Yeah.
well. Then obviously uscorporatewellness.com. I'll put that in there as well. My last question for you is this: if you had one piece of advice that you would share with your kids or employees or just someone out there, one piece of advice that would help them separate themselves from the rest, stand out from everybody else, what would that piece of advice be?
I think I would give you a 50 piece of advice, but if you made me pick one, the one that comes to mind, I don't know if it's the ultimate, but the concept that the vision is first. And once you have the vision, then the map becomes relatively easy to form. And once the map's there, the steps are simple. It's creating that vision, and I always like to come back to the Alice in Wonderland thing where she's talking to the Cheshire Cat and she's like, which way should I go? And he says, I don't know. Where do you want to end up? Well, I don't know. Then it doesn't much matter which way you go or which route you choose. And I think I see so many people doing that in their life, in their marriage, as parents, as entrepreneurs in business. It doesn't matter. Even school. I don't know where I want to end up. Well, then I guess it doesn't much matter which route you go. We're missing the first piece. We're trying to go to what should I do? The steps. That's the third step. It's vision, map, steps. And until we create that vision, until we're clear about that vision and why that vision is there, then we can't create the map. I don't know if I'll say the quote right, but it's something like the how is easy once you know your why. If you have a big enough why, the how is easy. That's how it goes. It's really simple. I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. I have zero struggles with eating dessert or junk food or whatever 2 weeks before a race, because my vision is I'm there to be as fast as I can. So if I'm living, we tend to live consistently with how we see ourselves, good or bad.
Yes.
And so if I'm consistent in that vision of my next 2 weeks is devoted to being the best athlete I can on that race day. A cookie? No, that's fine. It's not like, oh, well, I really want one. No, it's just like, that doesn't fit. That's not me.
Yes.
It's not who I am. So if you have that why, the how's super simple in almost every case. People are trying to get the how when they haven't figured out the why yet. That vision doesn't exist. Once that vision's there, you'll get the how. It'll come. I promise you. It doesn't matter what area of your life.
Vision, map, steps.
Yeah.
Brad, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, man.